Let's talk about a big debate in the city, the noise debate that continues to echo citywide. City has received over 13,000 public comments on a proposed noise bylaw in Plateau Montreal and Ville-Marie. The draft bylaw would crank up fines dramatically from the current $1,500 to as much as $10,000 for a first noise offense and grant police the power to shut down venues over a single complaint. Now, critics warn those penalties could stifle the city's vibrant music and nightlife culture. Let's speak to one voice on that front. Philippe Pelletier joins us. He's co-founder and producer of Aire Commune. Philippe, welcome to the program.
Hi, Elias. Thanks for having me.
What are your thoughts on this draft proposed noise bylaw?
Yeah, first of all, there's a good thing with that noise bylaw. I think there's a good intent by the city that this bylaw is in place since the 1970s and hasn't been touched. And one of the original bylaw that was in place, that there was no sound allowed at all outside of music venues. Now they're putting some sound limits, and that's a good thing. But as you said in your introduction, the new fines amount are totally absurd, like going from $1,500 to $10,000 for a first offense. That's a huge burden for small venues.
And you know that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? So there may be good intentions here, but is the worry here, despite those good intentions, the consequences could be devastating?
Yeah, exactly. And in this new regulation, I think the intent is good, but there's, like you say, there's the amount. That's first thing. And we're still in the principle, in the scheme of intervention before mediation, and that needs to change. We need to see mediation between the residents and the music venues. We need to give grants to music venues for soundproofing and to adapt, instead of putting fines and more intervention by police officers. So that needs to change.
So, you mentioned that this bylaw hasn't been touched in decades, right?
Yeah.
So it was in desperate need of some rejigging regardless, right? Now, I've heard people make this argument that, you know what? The city's changed over the decades. We used to be a city where it was just, party wherever you want, but now people live more than ever in the downtown borough, in the Ville-Marie, in the Plateau. It's where people want to live, and that's what's changed. And it's the music venues that have to adapt. And if they shut down, well, so be it. What do you say to that? That the residential nature of the city has changed far more than is being recognized by the music industry?
Yeah, it has been changed. And you know why Montreal is known internationally? It's for all the nightclubs, all the bars, all the music venues, the festivals, and that's what makes the DNA and the cultural fabric of this city. And if we don't intervene, something's going to change because, as you said, there's more and more regulation, less hours of operation, the more constraint, and what principle that is not applied in the new regulation that needs to be applied is the principle of agent for change. This principle is simple. New neighbors and new developments need to adapt to when they're arriving in some neighborhoods. It's not the way around. So it's not for music venues that have been there for decades and that needs to adapt when there's some new developments or new neighbors that come in place. It's the other way around.
Do you think that it's a lot of this has to do with, just a handful of people that like to complain?
Yeah, and that's a big problem. It has been the case for the Orange and the La Tulipe. It was one neighbor, only one neighbor, calling the police every night, putting some noise complaint, putting some fines, that eventually has those venue closed. And when you think of it, it's absurd that those venues that attract thousands of people every year for decades are shutting down because of one single complaint or one neighbors that sometimes going to call the police every night, and that's going to put an insane amount of pressure on those venues that eventually are going to force to shut down. So that needs to change.
We're with Philippe Pelletier, co-founder and producer of Aire Commune, and we're talking about the city's proposed changes on their noise bylaw. Philippe, as I said off the top, the city got 13,000 public comments on this. What do you think all those comments, the amount of comments received, what do you think it says about how Montrealers think about this?
Montrealer loves this city, loves those music venues, loves the bars. And I think now we've seen a very big movement in the cultural scene that say this needs to stop. And I'm quite optimistic about this because I'm on the board with the city officials of the nightlife scene in Montreal, and there are good intents there. Just we need to do this the right way.
So aside the dollar signs on the first offense, right? So going up to $10,000, right? That seems to be a non-starter. Is there anything else that's in this bylaw that you're like, oh no, this is a really bad thing? It also has to be dropped.
Yeah, it's still intervention before mediation, and it's still police officer that is the first responder for noise complaints. And SPVM agent has other things to do than answering noise complaints. So what we propose and what the city is envisioning for this is that we have some dedicated workforce that is formed and that knows the regulation, that can intervene and have some mediation between the residents and the venues. So with this workforce intervening, we take out the police from those kind of intervention, and then we have those dialogue, and it's going to be much more constructive than having police officers intervention and shutting down some venues.
If this were to go through as is, do you think venues would close?
Sorry, what do you think?
If the noise bylaw went through as it is, if there weren't any changes made, do you think some venues would close?
Oh yeah, definitely. With $10,000 fines for a first offense, that's for a small bar, a small venue. That's a huge amount of money. With they do some small profit margins. Yeah. So you have 2-3 fines, and then you're done.
Philippe, I got to leave it there. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Elias.
That's Philippe Pelletier, co-founder and producer of Aire Commune.